All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to the Writers Workshop. This is exciting. This is one of the first times we've ever done this. Normally, we're doing women's studies. My name is Charlie Brown, and I am the founder and the director of the Rooted Cafe. We are a women's discipleship ministry. We actually help women in their walk as they're learning the Hebraic roots of their faith. We love it. We have the best community of women, I believe, on the planet, and it truly is on the planet. As you can see in the chat, we have women all over the world joining us. They join us in our private discipleship group, but also you'll see them. A lot of them are in here today, and a lot of you are coming in from all over the world. I'm seeing all kinds of places, and I'm loving seeing all the places. South Africa. Oh my goodness, love it. Hello, everyone from South Africa's in the house. Great job, guys. Love seeing you all. It is on my list to come and visit you there. I would love to be there. So many of you. I have my notebook handy. I've got my pen handy. I hope you guys are ready to take some notes. I am going to sneak over to my email here because I want to make sure that I read out Lauren's introduction and do her some justice because she's such an amazing woman. I had the pleasure of meeting Lauren through she actually reached out to me, and it was really amazing. She reached out to me, and I know, when those God appointments, when you just know that it was God that connected you. Well, this is one of those appointments, and Lauren reached out to me. We were able to make a connection, and our group did her Strength of a Woman book. We did it as our book club last summer. We were so blessed by this. If you haven't read this book, it's great. I say get one for a friend. Why the whole book is an acrostic, as you know, the Aleph-Bet, Proverbs 31, and she takes you through each one of those acrostics in each chapter, beautiful stories of real women, and it is such a great book. We have just become friends. Also, Lauren is a writing coach, and that's the reason why she's joining us today, so that she can pass some of that gift on to you. Lauren is an award-winning author, social media coach for new authors, with her certification from the Advanced Speakers and Authors Association. She holds a bachelor's in marketing and seminary, master's of divinity and digital marketing certifications with Google and HubSpot. She is a champion of God's word who equips authors to overcome their fear and frustrations of social media and the publishing process. Lauren currently offers coaching services for those desiring to build their social media presence and their content. Her book, Strength of a Woman, Why You Are a Proverbs 31, looks at the Proverbs passage through the imagery of the Hebrew Aleph-Bet and won the Christian Market Book of the Year award. Lauren is Mimi to two little boys and lives in Jacksonville with her husband and two brown dogs who have their humans well trained. I have those as well. Lauren, what a blessing. I'm going to just bring you on in. Welcome. Let's unmute, do all the fun things. Welcome. Get you unmuted and hop on your video. Awesome.
Yeah, I think we got it.
Is.
Hello.
I don't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I'm not turned up. That's why. Now try.
Okay.
Oh, there you are.
Got me?
Awesome. Let me make sure.
Okay.
I'm switching my headsets off and on all the time, so let's make sure I'm all on the right page.
All right.
And we're so excited to have you, Lauren. Thank you for doing this for us today. A lot of ladies in different places of the world got up really early, or they stayed up really late, and we appreciate you. And thanks for jumping in. I'm going to just hand things over to you and let you take it away. I told ladies, now all of you who came in a little bit later, please stay till the very end because we do have a giveaway and you have to be present to win. So please be available. I'll start writing all your names down and make sure that I get you in our wheel so that we pick you. And I'm excited. Again, check your emails because we do have all your downloads are in there, and take really good notes. Those of you who maybe have to leave, or someone who wished they were here, we will have this available. Video recording is available for purchase. If you're one of our cafe members, it is free in your library. So I'm getting out of here. Take it away.
All right. Welcome, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I do teach at conferences, and this is some of the material that I will be sharing at various writing conferences around the country. And so we tend to make a statement that we are going to be drinking from a fire hose. And we will. It's a lot. And I did provide an outline. I hope you at least downloaded that so you can take some notes. I'm going to be sharing my screen, and I'm going to basically just kind of walk you through a PowerPoint with a ton of information. And I have numbered each PowerPoint. And so if you have a question about a specific slide or something, let's hold questions, or at least put them in the chat. And right before we take our break, our first break, I'll pause for a second. I'll let you guys ask those questions. And if you want to refer back to a specific slide to unpack a little more information, they're numbered. So definitely make a observation. Okay, let me just share my screen a second. And I need to go to my Google deck, and let me go to the top of my slide deck. All right, I think we are ready to roll. Okay, nope, we are not, because we started from the bottom, not the top. Let me just go ahead and move on up a little bit. There we go. All right, thank you for your patience. Okay, so today we are talking to a group of people. I hope that you signed up because you've got a book in you, or you have written a book and you just don't know what to do, or you're thinking of writing a book, or you dabble at some of this writing. And so we are going to look at two things today. The first workshop we're going to do is a little shorter this morning, but basically it's unpacking the whole publishing process. We're going to talk to you about your different options if you want to publish and how to get your book into the market. And then we'll take a short break. And then the next workshop is really more of the social media aspect of it. How, what's the difference between marketing and sales, and how can you use social media to kind of get that going for you? So today we are going to be looking at unpacking the whole publishing process, how to get your book from an idea into somebody's hand. Okay, I am Lauren. I'm not going to give you too much more information. Charlie did a phenomenal job introducing me, but my background is teaching, and my degrees are in marketing, and I am now offering coaching to the new authors to really define what they want to publish and how to get it into the hands of the readers. So if that's what you're looking for, you're in the right place. Okay, I love this quote. I actually have it up in my classroom at school, but writing is easy. You just sit at the typewriter and bleed. And writing is hard. I enjoy writing. I am a teacher, so I'm a big nerd, but it's hard. It's a hard process. And so hopefully some of the information that I share with you today might make it a little easier for you. All right, so this is what we're going to be talking about. Number one, what is your God-given assignment? It's important to really understand that, because you're going to see what the process is. Number two, we're going to really talk about how to define your target market or your target reader. And then number three, the importance of having a strong final format for your book. And then number four, I just threw in some extra facts and information I thought might be interesting about the whole writing process and writing industry. Okay, so number one, what is your God-given assignment? And this is so important. I say it because writing is hard, and the writing process and getting it published is incredibly hard. I'm going to be real honest with you. You have options. Do you want to do it traditionally? Do you want to self-publish? Do you want to participate with hybrid publishing? And before you even begin this journey, I would really recommend you spend some time in prayer and really define and understand what your calling is. Because if you are firm on what your calling is, it makes the writing process easier for you to hang in there. Most authors will receive several rejections, and most people will say no and I'm done. And the ones that stick to it and the ones that don't take those no's for an answer as your final answer are going to be the ones that ultimately reap the reward. And so you have got to understand, and I use myself as an example. I really felt called to publish traditionally, and it is not an easy process. And I received so many no's before I finally got that one big yes. And I knew God had called me to publish this traditionally. And so it helped me just stand firm as I walked through this whole process. Okay, understanding God's desire for your project is so important because you are absolutely going to underestimate the time, the cost, and the work that goes into creating a book. So it's important to prayerfully consider all of your options. Oh, what are your options? Well, the first option is a traditional publisher. When I say I'm published, today, anybody can publish a book, right? You can. I wanted to go through the publishing process through a traditional publisher. You may want to. So here's what happens if you choose that route. A lot of things to consider. Number one, it takes a crazy long time. I'll talk a little bit about that. It's ridiculously long. You will need an agent, likely. Most publishing houses will not take queries from individuals without an agent submitting their proposal. So you need to do a little research before you start pitching your publishers to find out who will accept your query and your proposal with an agent and without an agent. You sign over your rights. Once you sign that contract, that book's not yours. And so the publisher has the right to change the title, to change your format, to change some of your wording in your chapters. And you got to be okay with that. So that's something to know. They take all the financial risk. They're investing in you. And so they go through a long process of deciding whether or not you're for them or not. But they pay for everything. They pay for the publishing, the editing, they pay to get your book out there. We'll talk a little bit about what type of marketing they do. You might be surprised, especially in today's market, as an author, whether you are published traditionally or whether you publish as a self-publishing author, you're going to do the marketing, almost 100% of that marketing. You are going to be the one that contacts blogs and podcasts and newspapers and radio hosts. Charlie said that I met her. That's what I did. I had to reach out to a variety of organizations and I query them and I ask if maybe they would partner with me in some way. That's your job. Your publisher does not do that for you. If you want to do book signings, if you want to go on blog tours, if you want to participate in the Christian product expos and the different book expos, generally you're the one that is looking for those opportunities and signing up and participating. So even if you do a traditional publishing, you're still in charge of your marketing. Your average royalty rate is going to be anywhere from 20 to 25%. It really could be higher, but it really depends on your platform. It depends on how many books you have published and how well they did, how many you sold. So that's part of it. Your agent, you're going to have to pay a standard industry rate of 15%. You pay the agent right out of your royalties. So that's important. You can buy at a good discount slashed price. And so you can have those to sell when you're doing book signings and things like that. And I do see a few people raising a hand. Let's just write this slide number down and I'll come back to it. So write your questions down and we'll definitely get back to it. Okay. All right. So that's traditional publishing. It's a lot. The traditional publisher does offer you and will do your editing. They will do all of your graphic design, your layouts, your book covers. They do all the business part of it, the aspect of it. They do some marketing, but it's mostly going to be in the commercial arenas and the bookstores. And if they do any type of online marketing, it would be more in the personal or in the commercial arena. Okay, a book that I'll show you guys in a bit is, I recommend that you get the Christian Writers Market Guide if you're a Christian author. This is published every 2 years, and I'll show it in the screen if you're able to see me, but when I stop sharing my screen, I'll give it to you a little bit bigger. But it's by a gentleman by Steve Lobby. He is huge in the industry, in the Christian market industry. He publishes that every 2 years. And that book tells you what types of genre every traditional Christian publisher accepts. It gives you ideas of where to publish for blogs, magazines, radios, different podcasts that are accepting guests. Everything is in there. It gives you resources for coaches. Like if you want to use a coach like me to help you get in there and understand your marketing aspect of it, you'd find me there. If you want a writing coach to help you, fine tune your writing, all of those resources are available in that book. So it's very important to get a copy of one of these. Number one, because if you're going to start pitching publishers, the biggest reason to have it is so that you understand what genre your publisher will accept, right? Because if you're writing fiction, you don't want to publish to academics, right? Or if you pitch a publisher who just publishes Christian romance, right? You're not going to pitch a nonfiction book because it's a waste of time with you and it's a waste of their time. Okay, this is the publishing process. Number one, you have to submit with a proposal. There's very specific requirements. You can find templates online. Steve Lobby actually, gives templates as well. He's an agent, so that's why he writes that. I will help you if you're looking for a coach. There's lots of services that will help you write your proposal, but that's the number one thing. You've got to have a proposal. Again, check out the Christian Market Guide to know who you're pitching to and why. You even need a proposal if you're going to try to find an agent. And if you need that agent, they need to vet you before you're able to pitch to a publisher. My agent, I pitched her, I sent her my proposal, and then she and I together fine-tuned it and got it ready. And then she did the pitches for me using that proposal that we created. So you're even going to be writing your own proposal. Writing conferences. I gave you guys as a download every writing conference that I'm aware of. There are more. There are regular writing conferences that are non-Christian. And so you may be writing a book that's not a Christian-based or not a faith-based book, and go find those writing conferences. They will save you a ton of time. Usually you pitch your agent, you fine tune your proposal, then 6 months later, they begin pitching publishers. And then a year later, you might get an offer. And then a year later, they might publish the book. That's typical. So when I say it takes a long time, taking a year or more is not uncommon. And so the writing conferences, you actually go to a conference, you get an opportunity for 15 minutes to sit face-to-face with an agent or face-to-face with a publishing and acquisition editor, and you pitch your book. And you don't sit and read through your proposal, you give them your elevator speech of why this book needs to get into the hand of your readers. And so it saves you an incredible amount of time. And then usually if they want you, they'll say, please submit your proposal via email, and they'll go from there. They still, even if they say, I want to see your book, they'll still, as an acquisition editor, take your proposal, read through it. You usually include the first 2 chapters. They'll read through that. And if they think you're good, then you'll go to the next level, which is you go before their board, and they have a committee that basically votes on whether or not they want to represent you or not. Generally, if you get rejected, it's going to be because you don't have a platform. You can have a great book, and they will reject you because you don't have a platform. And so we'll get to ways to build that platform. They want to see, the reason it's so important is they want to see that you've already got some skin in the game, right? You've already got a following, you've already got ideas that you can market your book. The bigger the better, of course, but most of us are not, Beth Moore or Kay Arthur, and we don't have thousands and thousands and thousands of followers, but they do want to see what kind of activity you're doing. And something to include, think through everything you've done in your life. When I originally made my proposal, I used to be an events coordinator for a pharmaceutical company, and I was very involved in marketing. And I didn't have that on my proposal because I didn't think it applied to the writing world. And when I just mentioned that to my agent, she's like, why don't you have this? That's so important, because the publishing companies now see that I have experience in actively marketing and creating events. So I have no big deal, I have no problem setting up a book signing or setting up a party or something, a launch party. I've got experience with that. So that was immediately added to my proposal. So think through everything you've done. Maybe make a list of it and see how it might apply to this writing process. And then finally, you want to get an agent. You can get agents through writing conferences. I did. When I attended my very first writing conference, I didn't know I didn't even journal when I was a kid, so I knew nothing about this writing process. And I wrote this book, and I just went with my meager offerings, hoping that I hadn't wasted a year of my life. And I ended up winning. I joined the contest. I ended up winning overall nonfiction winner for the entire conference, which was an incredible gift. And as a result, I had agents and publishers offer me contracts immediately instead of me trying to find them. And so that's how I got my agent. That was one of the companies that reached out to me, and I talked to 2 different agents, and I settled on this one, and that's all from a writing conference. And then finally, the traditional publishing process, you wait. I pitched the book. I do have a current book under contract. I began pitching this book last June. I submitted it to my current publisher. By April, they still had not decided if they wanted to keep it or not. And so after attending a writing conference and being invited to submit to some other publishers, I did in April, and I just recently signed with a new publisher. You don't have to publish every book through the same publishing company. And this publisher has been right up front. I don't have to turn the book in till next April, and then it'll still be another year before it hits the market. So my new book that's under contract will not even go to the market until 2024. So that is the publishing process. It takes a very long time. Okay, there are other options. You might want to self-publish. When I got into this, I actually had a conversation with somebody who chose to self-publish because she really felt that she could not wait years to get this message out that she had. And she decided it would be quicker and easier for her to self-publish. And it can be a benefit. Things to consider: you maintain all the control, right? You keep your title, you keep your cover design, you control the timeline of when you want to launch and not launch. You also take all of the financial risk, where this publishing company is going to do all of these things for you and you don't have to pay them to self-publish. You do take this financial risk. You will have out-of-pocket costs. You will have to sometimes, depending on the way that you publish, you may need to pay somebody else to do your typesetting and formatting. Even if you choose to go through white pages with Amazon, you may not be savvy with the computer, and it might be easier for you to pay somebody else to do it. That's okay. I mean, that could be a consideration. Your graphic design, your books grab your customer. So you don't want to do a simple cover that they're not able to relate to. And there are graphic designers that do book covers for you. There's also different softwares and sites that you can go to that will help you with your cover design. Also, you pay for all your marketing, right? You're going to pay for all of that. You also need to find unbiased beta readers. And a beta reader is a person who's going to be the first person who reads through your book, and you want their feedback of how they're experiencing this book for you. Do not ask your friends and family to do this for you. They're going to tell you it's great. They're going to say, I love it. And that doesn't help you, because your goal is to try to find the problems. And so you need to be able to reach out to writing groups. I work with Word Weavers International, And they let you know. They're not your friends. They are your friends, but they're going to be really honest with you. They're definitely helping. You know, it's like iron sharpens iron. They want you to have the best product. Also, you're going to pay for an editor. And again, just because you have an aunt who used to be a high school English teacher doesn't mean she's a book editor, correct? And so pay for an editor. You edit for not just grammar. A lot of people think you're just editing for grammar. That's the easy part, frankly. You're also doing content editing. You're doing format editing, the way it lays out on a page. And so if that's not something you're familiar with, or your aunt, English teacher, isn't familiar with, you need to pay for that. And so honestly, whether you are self-publishing or publishing, pay for an editor. I have paid for editors before I've even given it to my publishing company to be edited, right? I want to take away every reason for them to change their mind and say, we don't want to publish your book because it's a hot mess, right? So I pay for editors before I even turn it over to an editor, if that makes sense. You are 100% responsible for all of your marketing. You're responsible for most of your marketing anyway, and how your book is listed on Amazon. The good thing about self-publishing is you can kind of, control your Amazon listings a little easier than I can. I can't change anything. And so you might be able to find a niche that you can list your book as, and then you may end up being number one in sales or something, because you have a smaller niche and you have better sales than anybody in that listing. So you can play with that a little bit as a self-published author. You can and should buy copies, even if you ain't published through Amazon. Buy a copy of your book and look at it and see how your reader is experiencing that. I've talked with people that it looked great when they formatted it on the computer, but when they bought their book, the formatting was a little messed up. And so you need to fix that. You need to, make those changes so that when people buy hard copies of your book, it's perfect, right? You want it the best representation of your message that you can get out. And so I highly recommend you buy books, usually through Amazon or your author publishers. You're going to pay about $3 or $4 per book. And so even if you self-publish, you're going to buy a couple copies. Not that you want to fill up your garage and sell them out of your garage, but you always want to have copies on hand so that you can, use them at your book signings, have giveaways when you do workshops, use them as gifts. I sell off my website as well as through Amazon. And so I can fulfill orders through my home. And so always get a copy of your book. Okay, and then the last type of publishing to consider is called a hybrid publisher. And in the Christian market, there's several organizations, several companies that offer hybrid publishing. And it means just what it sounds like. It's a little bit of a publisher and it's a little bit of a self-publishing. You are self-publishing, but you have chosen to go with a hybrid publisher because they can offer some of the services you don't feel comfortable doing. They will help you with your editing and your graphic design. They will also help you do web designing, and they'll publish the book for you. You usually pay a one-time fee. It could be a couple $1,000s, but that's it. They don't take any of your royalties. You've already paid for it. You do maintain more control. They can help you with marketing. This is a CPE event, is a Christian Product Expo that happens twice a year. And that's when all of the Christian book retail stores attend so that they can see all the new products for the spring and for the fall. And the hybrid publishers are there and they have all of their books. And you're usually, as an author, you're welcome to join their booth and promote your book. And so that is something that the publishers do, but also the hybrid publishers do this as well. Your costs are shared. Usually it's shared between the publisher and the author. You do pay a little bit. They do some of it for you. And you can as well buy copies from them. And again, I always recommend having copies of your book on hand. Okay. All right. So the next thing we're going to kind of talk about is who is your target reader and what do they need, right? This is something that I do some coaching with my new authors because it's really important for you to understand who your target reader is. I even suggest that you write up and maybe draw up or create a persona. You need to be very specific. Are you writing to males? Are you writing to females? How old are they? What's their education? How much money do they make? Do they work or do they stay at home? What is their spiritual maturity? Okay. Do they have children? Do they have other responsibilities? Do they work outside of the home or do they work in the home? Are they remote workers or are they stay-at-home moms? And where do you find them? Where do they hang out online and offline? This is important because you're writing to this person. And I even suggest making that persona up, putting it right next to your writing station and having a conversation with that person. Because what is their need? And you are writing specifically to them and their need. It actually helps you write better, and it helps you in the proposal process because all of this information is required in your proposal. So before you even get started on writing that book or figuring out how to market it, this is your number one. This is the first thing you really should do. Also, you have different readers. Are they your primary reader? Is this the primary person? Or is there a secondary person that you could maybe write to? So my book is Christian based. I am writing to a Christian believer. My book looks at the Proverbs 31 passage. So those of you that attend church might have heard of Proverbs 31, but Christians tend to have some problems with her because she is looked at, the Proverbs 31 woman is looked at as a standard. And so I am walking the reader. My primary reader is a female who has a pretty knowledgeable understanding of the Bible. They might do some Bible studies. And she might be interested in going, just beginning to go a little deeper. And so my book looks at the Proverbs 31 passage as an acrostic poem in Hebrew. It is. But as Christians, we don't read the book in Hebrew. And so I go through that process to introduce the Christian reader to the Hebrew alphabet and the pictographic images of the Hebrew alphabet. And I've included stories of how women who you met in the thick of things, you would never consider them a Proverbs 31 woman because it's a standard, right? But we go through the story of redemption, how Jesus has redeemed their stories, and they in fact are Proverbs 31 women. So it's a nonfiction book. It's all true, and all the people in the stories are true. And so my target market obviously is going to be a female, probably young to middle age, educated enough that she's interested in nonfiction books, and has a good spiritual maturity, maybe wanting to go to the next level and just go a little bit deeper. Probably has children because Proverbs 31 covers it. Could be married, doesn't have to be married because Jesus is our bridegroom, right? And then what does that mean? So that's my primary audience. My secondary audience very well could be Messianic Jews who totally understand the Hebrew aspect of it, but now want to understand how, how Yeshua, how Jesus fits into an Old Testament passage that they're familiar with, or people that Christians that are more Hebrew minded and follow Torah. So I have a primary group and I market directly to them, but I also have a secondary group. So that's important. Before you even start working through this, you really, really, really need to define your target market. And you'll see it later when we start talking about social media, how important this is. Okay, this is slide number 11. Okay, your target reader. This is something important when you're writing your book. Why do they need your book? How will your book benefit them directly? And as you write, speak to them, speak to that need, speak to how your book can help them, because you want them to experience that when they're reading your book. You want them to understand, oh, I can apply that to this situation. So a big mistake that writers make is we write just what we want to say. Like, I've got this message and you've got to listen to it, you've got to read it, and you got to do this, right? So a lot of us are guilty of doing that instead of writing to what our audience needs and what they want. So not everybody wants our message. We have to be more considerate of what they need. And it could be our message, but we have to write it in a way that they will accept it better. Okay, the final third thing is finalizing your format. And again, I kind of coach people through this because you need to really not only decide how you're going to publish it, what type of book you're writing, but what kind of format is it going to be received? Is it a Christian living book? Is it a Bible study, a devotional, workbook, resource book? These are important because think of how your target market is going to use your book and write to how they would use it. It's okay to just have a dump session where you just sit down and you just write and you just dump it. Okay. But then at some point you need to organize it. If it's a Bible study, are you going to do chapters that it's just week number 1, week number 2, right? If it's a Bible study, you need to know that if it's more than 8 or 10 weeks, you probably aren't going to sell it because people don't have time to sit and do, year-long Bible studies. If it's a devotional, there is an industry standard of how you write devotionals. So it's important. And once you figure out your target market and the format that you want to write, you can really just duplicate that for every chapter or every day. Maybe you write it a Bible study and you go day 1, 2, 3, 4 for the week, right? You just repeat that. So it's really important to consider how you want to present your message to the world. My book started out very, very academic. That was one of my biggest critiques that I got from all the writing groups and from all the publishers. This is an incredibly great premise, right? You write well, but nobody wants to buy an academic resource book. Nobody's going to read that, right? I like those things, but there might be only 4 of me in the market versus hundreds of people that they're trying to get the book to. So you've really got to understand the format that is best going to interact and be used by your target market. Okay, these are just some fun facts. For fiction, it's interesting. 72% of the buyers are female. So women, they're more likely to buy a book than a guy is. 51% of them are over 45. So this is important when you're trying to figure out your target market, right? If you're a fiction writer, you're kind of ahead of the game a little bit right there. The age of your target market, 45 years old. Okay. So then you ask yourself, where do 45-year-olds hang out online? Where do 45-year-olds hang out offline? So that kind of helps you, fine tune that target market. 81% of readers are actually on Facebook. That Facebook is one of the number 1 social media platforms. 30% of them are on Pinterest, and Pinterest is actually one of the fastest growing platforms. And we'll talk just a tiny bit about Pinterest in the next workshop. 59% of the buyers of nonfiction are female. So we still have a little bit of an edge in the nonfiction realm. 51% again are over 45. So I know my niche for my target market age. And 49% of them read and participate in blogs and forums and participate and are active on Facebook groups and even groups like the Rooted Cafe. We were able to track that data so that we know where we can find niches to reach out to and to market to our readers because we know where they're hanging out. So I just thought that was interesting. Okay, some other mistakes, some whoopses that nonfiction writers often make. They write what they want instead of what the reader needs. We talked a little bit about that. I fail to identify my audience. A lot of times, I have a book on the Hebrew alphabet and I'm like, anybody could read this. My next book that's coming out is more specifically the Hebrew alphabet. And really anybody could benefit from reading that. But I'm not selling it to everybody and anybody. And if I'm going to, write to everybody, then some of the examples I'm using and some of the stories I'm using aren't going to appeal to everybody, right? So I have to very much fine tune who my audience is. They fail to identify the why I wrote the book. So I wrote the book on Proverbs 31 because as a woman, that's a standard for me in the church, right? And I'm tired of it being held over as the perfect Proverbs 31. And that woman makes me tired when I read it in the Bible. And there's no way I can do her as a modern. I work outside of the home. I do have kids and grandkids and husbands and dogs. And, I'm a busy person. And when I discovered that in the Hebrew language, it's got nothing to do with how I'm busy at home, but instead it's about how that woman is a warrior for her family. I can identify with that. Like, I might be busy, but I am a warrior for my family. And I found in my research a commentary that a male pastor said, this passage is often read to women on Mother's Day, and I know there's women who don't deserve it. And that hit me the wrong way, because I was like, what do you mean we don't deserve it? Why? Because we've got a bad background, because we didn't have, the necessary support, because we haven't had the discipleship to learn how to be a better Christian. Like, I don't deserve to be recognized because of that. And so I wanted to write my book. My why was to really dispel that, and to let women know that it doesn't matter our background, and it doesn't matter the mistakes that we've made. We definitely are all strong Proverbs 31 women. So that's my why. And that changes the way you write, right? It changes how I want my reader to experience that. Also, don't have a clear structure. Is it a book or is it a Bible study? Mine is a book, but some people want to use it as a Bible study and as a book club. And so I've accepted that, but I've kind of given them some helps of, like, it's going to be hard because it's 22 letters in the alphabet. Nobody wants to go to a 22-week Bible study. So these are some suggestions that I've made so people can kind of get through it and use it more as a book club book. So if you mess that up or you blur those lines, your reader's confused, like they don't know how to use your book. Okay. And also, they lack dialogue and they lack storytelling. You've always got to tell a story. You've always got to use dialogue, and that's the way you're going to draw your readers in, so that they make it more personal. They feel that benefit and they feel that need. Okay. All right. So before you start even pitching, these are just some final things. Think about your title. You want a great title. You want high impact. You want an informative, something that, think of you, like, what kind of titles grab your attention? Okay. Mine is Strength of a Woman, Why You Are Proverbs 31. Most women will pick it up and go, I'm not Proverbs 31. Well, yes, you are. Here's why. Even nonfiction need a story. We've talked about that. There's a saying in the writing world that you want to show, don't tell. You want to write tight. Basically, what that means is you're trying to pick words, the least amount of words that are going to make the biggest impact. You want people to imagine what you're saying. You want them to experience it. You want to tap into the senses. Is there a smell to it? Is there a sound that's in the background? Is there, something that somehow you can make that imagery come alive to them when they read your words. Also, you need to avoid Christianese. I know we're all Christian. We have, fundamental beliefs, but we all come from different backgrounds and different denominations, and we have a different language within our denominations and our churches. We need to avoid those things because it could be off-putting. Say I am writing to, as a Christian, if I just talked to people who are Torah-minded and I refer to Jesus as Yeshua, I don't have a problem with that. I actually prefer to call him Yeshua, but the typical Christian in a Christian church on Sundays doesn't call him Yeshua. That could be a little weird for them. So I need to avoid the Christianese and avoid the languages of my denomination and just write the word of God, right? Just write what that person will understand in a simplified language. Also, you need to be able to do an elevator pitch for your book. When a friend says, what's your book about? Or when a podcaster says, what's your book about? You should have a 50-word pitch. You should have a 1 to 2 sentence word pitch. All of that needs to include some kind of hook that really just gets their attention. You want to inform your listener, inform your reader what your book is about and the benefits of your book. That should be immediately clear in what you say. And you're going to also use this if you're writing query letters to agents or publishers. You've got to have that pitch. They call it an elevator pitch. So those are the final things that I want you to consider. Okay. I don't know if we want to include the questions in our recording or if we want to stop the recording at this time and allow people, Charlie, if they want to go ahead and we'll go through either questions in the chat or if they want to just unmute and be able to answer questions. But let's take a break before we go. If there's any